On July 8th, 2022, Japan was shaken to its core when Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was assassinated. See, Japan is a peaceful country with an incredibly low homicide rate and rarely more than 10 firearm-related deaths per year, which is impressive for a country of 124 million people. So the fact that anyone, let alone a political figure, would be slain in broad daylight was incredibly shocking. After the killing, more and more bizarre details started to emerge.
Has blamed the religious cult for bankrupting his family.
From homemade weapons to a religious cult and corruption at the highest levels of politics. Nearly 2 years later, it almost seems now that the killer actually got what he wanted. A deep investigation into the religious group that destroyed his family and infiltrated Japanese politics. What happened here is one of the craziest things I've ever had to look into, and the fact that this was even possible is the most unbelievable part, as you'll soon learn. However, understanding how a cult took over Japan starts with the understanding and assassination of Abe. Shinzo Abe was a polarizing figure, known for his nationalist views and deep desire to rebuild Japan's military. Abe came from a political family. His father was a lawmaker and held minister-level positions, and his grandfather was prime minister in the 1950s. Abe briefly became prime minister in 2006 and then staged a comeback in 2012, ending up the longest-serving prime minister in Japan's post-war history. Even after his resignation in 2020 due to his ill health, Abe remained undeniably influential, continuing as president of the Liberal Democratic Party that dominates Japanese politics. He continued to give speeches and other sporadic appearances to aid his party, but mostly retired from political life until suddenly he was assassinated. But first, very quickly, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, Displate. Displate is a unique mail poster designed to capture all your passions. It's a refreshing alternative to paper posters and canvas prints. There are over 2 million artworks available in the Displate catalog. Discover new, original art, or choose from officially licensed designs from the likes of Star Wars, Marvel, and many other iconic brands and franchises. Dive in, explore, and find something that suits your style. They just launched the new textured mail posters, Textra, which makes these posters pop even more. I received these Displates, which I really love. Now, what's great is that it's tool-free, safe for your walls, and super quick. Each Displate comes with a magnet kit to mount your Displate, and it only takes seconds. Magnets make it easy to swap your Displates anytime you want as well. Simply take the old one off and replace it with a new one. Easy. Right now, they have 22% off for the first 1 to 2 Displates and 33% off for 3 Displates or more until May 1st. So go to displate.com/OBF to get your Displate today. Thanks again to Displate for sponsoring this video. Alright, back to the video.
The former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has died after being shot while giving a speech at a campaign event.
This is Tetsuya Yamagami. At first glance, he hardly has the portrait of a killer. He was born to an affluent family with a construction business, but the important part of this story is that the control of the family business fell to his mother after his father died. His mother joined a religious sect infamous for manipulative fundraising practices. She fell for their tactics and proceeded to donate all of the family's funds to the church, leaving them in complete ruin to the point of bankruptcy. She continued donations after the bankruptcy, even when her children were going hungry. Yamagami's uncle tried to help support the family financially, but his mother gave this money to the church. The resulting financial situation was devastating to his family, preventing Yamagami from attending university and keeping his brother from badly needed medical care. In total, she gave over 100 million yen, or over $650,000 US at current rates, to the cults. But the third element of the story to understand is the cult that ruined Yamagami's family. This is the Unification Church, whose followers are sometimes referred to as the Moonies, after its founder. It's a cult of personality centered around its founder, Korean national Sun Myung-moon. The religious group began in 1954, just after Korea was split in half by 3 years of brutal war, and less than a decade after Japan's 35-year tyrannical occupation came to an end. During these trying times, Moon created his own sect of Christianity, the Family Federation for World Peace, Peace and Unification, also known as the Unification Church. This church presented Moon as a messiah who came to Earth to lead man to redemption, ridding followers of original sin through perfect families. Moon preached that arranged marriages blessed by him would be without sin and thus give birth to sinless children.
2,000 couples arriving at a stadium outside Seoul, South Korea for a mass wedding.
To set an example, Sun Myung-moon and his wife Hak Ya-han had 14 children, but their plan for perfect children clashed with reality. One of his daughters ran away from her arranged marriage, one son ended his life, and another founded an offshoot militant cult of his own. The entire belief system is almost secondary for this cult, acting more as a source of funds and influence for Moon. He used the cult to set up and buy companies, lobby against communism, fight LGBT rights, and above all, fundraise aggressively. After successfully spreading his cult in South Korea, Moon moved on to Japan. But having grown up during the Japanese occupation of Korea, the cult leader had a deep-seated hatred for Japan and its people. Despite this hatred, he found common ground with Japanese politicians in their dislike of communism, the ideology that had recently split Korea in two. Moon was a fervent anti-communist, denouncing it as evil and investing church resources into propping up political parties that supported these ideals. These parties included Japan's right-wing Liberal Democratic Party, or LDP, which has dominated Japanese politics since 1955, with only two brief interruptions. It's the same party Shinzo Abe would later become a member of. In fact, the church's ties to Abe's grandfather, Nobusuke Kishi, go as far back as the 1960s. The Unification Church started providing donations to the LDP and sending church members to work as secretaries for party officials, and the link slowly grew stronger. Eventually, the church gave large donations and mobilized its followers on behalf of the LDP. The ties between a conservative Japanese political party and a South Korean cult might seem odd at first, given that the nationalistic LDP denies many of Japan's World War II era war crimes, including those committed in Korea. But it didn't matter to Moon, because the connections with the LDP allowed the church to skirt oversight as they expanded in the country with aggressive tactics. They set up shop on college campuses under a fake name, and once believers were hooked, they aggressively extracted as many donations from them as possible. A routine tactic was to claim that a person's departed loved ones were in hell and sell a ticket to heaven for their soul, often in the form of overpriced trinkets. The media caught on to this tactic, and public pressure forced the church to abandon it. Still, they continued to use other methods to manipulate Japanese believers into donating as much as possible. This is the kind of manipulation that Yamagami's mother fell for. She gave everything to the church, leaving her penniless. Angered by how the cult had ruined his family and his life, Yamagami decided to act. Yamagami first sought to off Hak Ya-han, Moon's wife, but never got close enough despite years of trying. Yamagami identified connections between Abe and the church and thought that in his position of power, he helped spread the church's influence across Japan. He ultimately settled on Abe as his target and set his plan in motion. He made a weapon by himself and tested it in the wilderness. He was fired from his job for repeated absences, and with mounting debt, Yamagami was running out of time. He eventually went through with it, ending Abe's life and setting in motion a surprising set of circumstances. Abe's sudden demise shocked Japan and the world as the first political assassination in Japan since the start of the Second World War. But as details on the case emerged, an underground web of connections and corruption unraveled. The assassination pushed the cult's shady political dealings into the spotlight. The revelation of Yamagami's motive sent the media into a frenzy, scrutinizing every LDP member's ties to the Unification Church. Investigations quickly revealed that of the 375 Liberal Democratic Party members in Japan's legislature, over half had connections to the church, including Japan's education minister, which oversees religious bodies. Since the assassination, the LDP and the current prime minister's popularity plummeted from 50% to just over 20%. The religious scandal is not the only reason, but it's certainly a major one. To what extent the church has influenced policy remains a mystery. Lawmakers and church representatives remain tight-lipped. However, outside observers believe the church has been in decline since Moon's passing in 2012, selling assets like Moon's luxury retreats and his businesses. After all, the story of a new messiah arriving to save humanity doesn't hold much water when the messiah is no longer alive, and the perfect family teachings ring hollow when Moon's own sons are bickering over their inheritance in court. In response to the investigation's discoveries, the Japanese government has moved to dissolve the Unification Church in Japan, citing their fundraising tactics. However, the trial is still ongoing, and the first hearing took place a few days before this was written. With the church likely ordered to dissolve in Japan, the group is said to have begun pressuring their US-based believers to donate more. We'll have to wait and see how things play out. As for the assassin himself, he was arrested at the scene and pleaded guilty. Many are sympathetic to Yamagami, seeing him as a, I'm gonna butcher this pronunciation, but Shukyu Nisai, or in English, a child of a cult member forced into a manipulative belief system. An online petition requesting his sentence be commuted got over 13,000 signatures. There were protests against holding an official state funeral for Abe, and some even showed up to the protest cosplaying as Yamagami. The whole situation leading to the assassination and its aftermath are just mind-boggling. I'd be curious to hear your take on all this in the comments, but that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.